What I've noticed is it's the savvy entrepreneur who realizes that within opportunity there is tragedy. Something happens for you, not to you.
I think, and as we move into your book and the reason you're here, the hardest thing in business, in my experience, is how beat down people can get. And in this scenario, in this world that we live in for the last 12 months, I mean, I've just never seen anything like it. Even before, as I would talk with other business owners and I would consult with groups about issues that they were having, one of the things that is a recurring theme for me is it's not as bad as you think, right? You're so worked up. You're so emotional. You're seeing the problem from inside the bottom of the grave rather than jump out on top where you can get a better view, right? The hole you're digging is getting deeper and deeper. And this one, so that's always been my go-to, right? Is you got to have more positivity. The glass is half full. You got to be honest with yourself about the problems, and then you just fix them. This one, even for me, has been more difficult because it was nothing that any of these guys did. So it rings a little hollow for me telling them that, only because usually I can point and go, look, you're the one that hired 4 people too many. You're the one that didn't bid enough for this work. You're the one that bought that vehicle, that house. You're the one that overbuilt, whatever it is, right? It's always our fault. In this case, none of it is our fault. And so it seems like it ringed a little bit true. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's interesting. I understand and can appreciate where you're coming from on that. I pivoted into, we have a responsibility. So imagine if COVID is a car, you're in a car accident with COVID. It's not your fault that that driver ran the red light and it hit your vehicle. What you do is, as soon as you realize you've been in an accident, you now have ownership and responsibility of your reaction to it. So you're in a car accident, you're hit, you can get out and you can fight with the other owner. You can go out and trade insurances. You can making sure everybody's okay. Or you can sit there and call your significant other on the phone and talk about the so-and-so who just hit you, and I'm going to sue, and I'm going to get my pound of flesh, and I'm going to this, and I'm a victim, and I'm a martyr. Those are all reactions we can have. What I've noticed is it's the savvy entrepreneur who realizes that within opportunity there is tragedy. Something happens for you, not to you. And I think I use myself as the example. In the last 12 months, my coaching practice is up 300%. I was able to complete my book after losing 6 stages in 3 countries, which was my number one way to get new coaching clients, was to get on stage in front of entrepreneurs and CEOs and executives and tell stories and be of service to them. So I'm stuck at home, lost all my stages, completed my book. Now it's an international #1 bestseller. Now it gets me new opportunities. I get invited back to your show for the second time. Sounds like that's kind of a rare occurrence, kind of cool. Or I could have sat around and felt sorry for myself and, ate lots of nachos and eating popcorn, watching Netflix, and felt, oh, boo-hoo. Well, the reality is I decided, why am I doing this? Why do I coach? Why do I speak? Why do I do podcast appearances? I do it for one reason, and that's to improve lives. And I can improve those lives from anywhere I want if I take that right mindset. So if I can go out and volunteer my time, I went on to a volunteering program through the Entrepreneurs Organization where I spoke with, what was it? It was 42 CEOs in 67 days to volunteer 30 minutes of my time, no cost to them, to get them unstuck, to get them to see opportunity within the tragedy, to get them to deal with their brutal reality, like Stockdale Paradox. The brutal reality is COVID is happening to me. I'm going to make this the defining moment of my life. What can I do to get through this to have a better future? Worked all that. I got 0 clients out of the 42 people I've spoken with. And people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you wasted all your time. What I got from that is business goes up 300% because those 42 CEOs, while they didn't engage my coaching services, they were my best sales force, my chief evangelist officers, so to speak. And from there, my practice is nearly at capacity. I never would have thought that was going to happen when I lost all speaking opportunities and all travel opportunities through no fault of my own. But when I got hit by that car, I was able to pivot out of that, recognize this is happening for me, not to me, and what can I do with that?
So it seems to be that, and you mentioned this earlier, the restaurants, and I can't think of maybe gyms, but I can't think of any industry. The mechanics are still working. Like you said, you can go to the shopping center. You can, movies, theaters, I suppose would be another one.
True.
But movie theaters aren't necessarily mom and pop. I'm just thinking about those restaurateurs that where's that pivot? The guy went to pizza, but and I don't have to tell you and anybody listening, we've talked about restaurants a lot. And I tell people to avoid the restaurant industry like the plague if they can, if they're looking to go into new businesses, because it's a tough business and the margins can be very thin. And particularly somebody that's bootstrapping and started in the last couple of years, they're not going to have enough cash, as we talked about in your intro. And so let's talk to them, because that seems to who I get the most feedback from. Let's talk to them. And what's the advice that you would give to them as they struggle through both the depression of having it taken, and forget about it. It's bad enough that the business is going away and may not come back and you don't know when you're going to be able to open. What do you tell those people?
Well, I always go back to the beginning. Why did you get into the restaurant space in the first place? And some people will say, well, so I'm second, third generation. Okay, that makes sense. Some people say, like the guy who wanted to create a great dating experience. Once we can get them unstuck around the impact things have on them, whether it's changes in marketplace, pandemics, etc., we want to get them to use a different part of their brain. When they're in a mindset of a fixed mindset, this is happening to me, for example, woe is me. They're in the fight or flight part of their brain, which for centuries has kept us alive, from the dinosaurs to today, being in fight or flight. If we can move them into the front part of their brain, the higher operating cerebral cortex, they can see the ability to focus on a new intention. And when we focus on a new intention, by using a different part of our brain, we can see different opportunities, just like the guy in San Francisco. Because my intention is to create this. My intention ties to my purpose. And as I talk about in the book, it all ties into the science behind the active learning cycle. We go from purpose to what's not working for me, to what's our intentionality, not our expectation, to then into a strategy around that intention to go against what's not working for us. Then we iterate. We remove failure from the process. We try a bunch of different things, whether it's home delivery, whether it's takeout, whether a different model. I've seen some restaurateurs who are serial entrepreneurs close the restaurant and pivot into a whole new business in the same retail location, offering a different service. There's a lot of different ways to go into it. It's when we get shut down is when we become paralyzed by fear and self-doubt.
So it's really, it comes back to, like most everything in business, particularly being an entrepreneur or having just a single business, that mindset, that attitude, and that ability to see through the fog and see through the haze where other people might collapse,